Hi guys, it's Shannon. Here is Sarah.
Hi.
I'm such a huge fan of yours.
Oh my God.
I love Degrassi. I love Ginny and Georgia. You are just so hilarious. So I'm so glad that you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Of course. We were talking about dental stuff before.
Love dental work.
Yeah.
I support dental work.
We should all support dental work. Make sure to floss. This is your reminder. But we are here to talk about mental health. You had such a beautiful PSA with Unsinkable. Can you tell me a little bit about why you wanted to open up in this way?
Yeah, I think I've grown up in a generation that's very much kind of born in the digital age, and I feel like that kind of brings on a whole new level of insecurity, and all of your insecurities are kind of playing out on a very large scale. So Unsinkable came to me and said, you know, this is what we do. We provide a safe space for people to talk about their stories and talk about their mental health and kind of connect through story. And I just jumped at the chance because I'm a storyteller born and raised, and just any time that I get to read other people's experiences or share my own, I just always jump at the chance. So I'm really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like people would make the assumption like, oh, you have everything. You're so successful. You have all this. I think it's so important, and I think it's so great that you are speaking out about this, because it doesn't matter who you are. Mm-hmm. Mental health hits everybody. So how has it affected you in different ways?
I mean, I actually remember like when I was first doing the PSA, I was worried that was going to be the exact response, but that was also just my mental health like getting in the way. Yeah, I think for me, a really common misconception is that I am working all the time and that I'm very busy and that I'm always succeeding. But the truth is, like, I do not work that often. I have a lot of downtime, and when I have too much time to think, that usually puts me in a bad space. So kind of learning to manage that in a healthy way has been my whole, life story, because I've been doing this since I was 6. But I just know how big a deal it is for me to maintain like a healthy mental space, and I just want other people to be able to do the same. And so I'm just happy to be able to share whenever I can, because if even one person can read my story and be like, oh, I feel a little better about myself, then I've done a good job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's why I love it so much. Something that you said in the PSA like really just like hit home for me. You said every win I have just feels like a reprieve from failure, which I feel like kind of goes into like imposter syndrome and things like that. So what did you mean by saying that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually wrote that in my journal years ago. So I'm glad it finally got to see the light of day. I think, like I said, like when people expect so much from you and when you've set an unrealistic standard for yourself, it's really hard to keep going. And it's also hard to celebrate the little wins because it doesn't really feel like a win anymore. But my family's really great about that. And I obviously have made a lot of friends through what I've done and what I do. And so I have a lot of people who have struggled with the same things, and we all kind of rely on each other, which is amazing. And we do celebrate even the tiniest wins. Like if someone does a good take and they're like, I really felt connected in that, I'm like, you go, girl, way to go. And like we all celebrate that, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. And it's sometimes you have to like make that conscious effort to like celebrate those wins, right?
Totally.
Like that's something I'm working on in therapy right now, where I'm like, if I succeed at something, then I'm like, okay, what do I do next?
What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to pause and be like, I'm great.
Yeah.
Look at what I did.
Yeah. Or I'm like, okay, how am I going to top that? Like you
Yeah.
set the bar so high for yourself. So it is all about just like, sitting in that and doing all of that. So what advice do you have for somebody who's maybe having a hard time with mental health, especially around like social media?
Totally.
Yeah.
I think a huge thing is to just be very present. Mm-hmm. Like if you're thinking too much about the future, if you're, getting really, really intense about your thoughts and your opinion of yourself, you just got to slow down and be like, I'm here, I'm okay, I'm breathing, and kind of take a look at the beautiful things you have in your life, because even the fact that we have breath in our lungs is a huge win.
Right.
Like that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And at the very least, you should celebrate that. And something that I used to do, I mean, if you watch Ginny and Georgia, you know that like I love making people laugh, and that's like kind of my whole shtick. And I used to say on my worst days, if I can make someone smile, like even the tiniest little grin, that day is not a waste. So it's all about finding little tiny things in your day that you can love and appreciate, and then you also kind of got to be your own cheerleader. That's a big thing too. Mm-hmm. I feel like we don't give ourselves enough credit, and it's really hard. It's really easy to be hard on yourself. Mm-hmm. But I think if you flip that script and you kind of talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend, it changes a lot.
Yeah.
Like that's a really important exercise I think everyone should try.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that. And I always think too with social media, anytime I get like overwhelmed, I always just try to think like the internet isn't real. Like it doesn't exist.
100%.
Or just like we're also not supposed to, we're not meant as humans to like see as much as we do. Right? So I think that's why it's such a struggle for younger people as well, who are just like so consumed in it all. So yeah, take a lot of breaks from social media.
Another thing that I think is also really like kind of helpful, at least to me, is like there's all these videos of like influencers in the wild, and it like shows what it actually looks like when people are taking those very aesthetic like TikTok videos, and it just shows them like setting it up and then going and looking all pretty and then going to like, it just really, it takes it all and makes it very real, to the point where you're like, okay, not everyone has this beautiful, beautiful life that they say they do.
Totally. And take everything with a grain of salt too, because I saw a TikTok yesterday of somebody that showed how to like change your background now with AI. It's so easy just to like take a photo in your room and then change the background to make it look like you are just like at Coachella or like somewhere else. So I'm like, oh, it's going to get even worse. Like everything's going to look so perfect and curated, but nothing's real.
AI is so scary.
AI is so scary. Yeah, it's terrifying. What can you tell us, Ginny and Georgia? Season 3. I gotta sneak it in there.
I actually asked the creator the other day. I texted her and I was like, because we just got nominated for a People's Choice Award, which is wild, wild, wild. Actually, no one knew. And then I texted everyone and I was like, this is crazy. And they were like, what? But very excited about that. And I texted the creator and I was like, aren't you dying to tell me what happens in season 3? Like, don't you just want to tell me right now everything that happens to Max? And she was like, I do, but I also want to tell every single person alive. So I can't. Right. So I don't know anything about it. I just know that we're shooting it this year, which I'm super excited about. And it's always so fun because everyone comes back, because a lot of them live out of town. So we all come back together and get to work on this awesome thing that we're all so proud of. And I'm looking forward to it.
That's got to be such a cool feeling when you finally get that script too. And then you're like, do you just go through it and find all your parts? Oh God,
I rip through that thing. Yeah. And you know what? In a lot of other roles, I kind of just like skipped to my part. But with Ginny and Georgia, like I genuinely love the writing so much. And I love the story. And I read every page and I savor it. Yeah. And it's fun too, because like, now that I know everyone, like knowing what they're going to have to do is so funny to me. Right. Like, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sarah, thank you so much for being here and being so open to talk about mental health. It's so nice to meet you.
Of course. Least I can do. Thank you for having me.
Of course.